Hello my friends and welcome back. It's Friday. Happy end of the week to you. I have to say this disclaimer that in this video I'll be covering 6 different geographical regions of the world, which in my eyes are part of the one great conflict with the same players, the axes of evil versus West and NATO. These regions are Syria, Ukraine, Russia, United States, Georgia and Romania. In each of the video we have a new region, it seems like recently. We'll begin from Syria because there has been so much that happened in the last 2 days. I'll show you everything and I'll tell you every last bit of important information at the chronological time, so you know about it right as it happened. We begin with a very short thread analysis of what does it mean for Russia to lose access for the 2 main military bases in Syria. One of Russia's top priorities in Syria is maintaining base access. Syria is a critical waypoint for Russian activities elsewhere in the region. Watch for signs that PMCs are redeploying to Syria. By now, Russia probably has made its assessments and executing plans. This is just a little taste for you, and now let's fully jump into the front lines of Assad's regime versus the rebels. You can see on the map here that Hama, the city right on the main assault axis of the rebels, was almost surrounded. Now the rebels, after capturing Aleppo, decided not to attack Hama head-on, but try to surround it, take the surrounding areas, and they almost succeeded. They controlled 4 out of 6 roads in and out of the city. Only one side remains open, which was the south, and that was enough. Then, on Thursday, yesterday, we started getting videos from Hama when it was almost surrounded. Videos like this one, when the chief of police and military, under Assad's regime, of course, says that he will not leave the city. Doesn't matter that it's almost surrounded, I will stay in the settlement and fight. That's what he's saying right here. Well, we now know what happened, and you can guess, I can give you a little hint. He left the city. On this video you can see Assad's regime defensive lines north of Hama. So on the way of rebels reaching Hama, they're supposed to take over these lines of barrels in the villages. These are the physical defensive lines constructed by Assad's regime's troops. As you can see, they're not manned on this video. Also, they seem to be constructed very hastily and done very simply. I mean, you can just drive through it with a Humvee or with a BMP or with a tank, because the rebels have all 3 of them now. These lines don't seem to offer any kind of real physical protection or blockades against the rebels, and seeing that this is the main defensive line before Hama against the rebels, there's no surprise they left the city. Oh, did I get ahead of myself? Well, yes, the Assad's regime left the city, abandoned the city. It was almost taken without a shot being fired. There were some minor skirmishes, but most of Hama surrendered to the rebels without a fight. On this video right here we can actually see the Syrian Assad's regime troops leaving Hama with their vehicles. I mean, also a lot of vehicles and equipment was left because they couldn't take everything. But it's clearly visually seen that they left, and a lot of them. Supposedly they are getting ready to form a new defensive line, a new last stand defense before Homs. We'll get to it. I don't want to get ahead of myself yet because there's a lot of good footage to cover. And now on the timeline we get to Hama today morning, 6th of December. A disaster is taking place for Russia and Assad's regime in Syria. Hama was just lost by Assad and Russia a couple of hours ago. HTS quickly advanced 26 kilometers south towards Homs. Now this is, I can almost believe how fast these rebels are moving. This means Assad's forces leaving behind vast grounds without any troops. A total military vacuum. There's nobody there. It's just for the rebels to advance as fast as they can drive. That's how fast they liberate ground or occupy ground or take route, whichever word you want to use here. Homs is taken. Damascus is cut off from Latakia and Tartus, where Russian air base and naval base are. Look at this. This is Hama right here. Aleppo is up north. Rebels took it a week ago. Today they took Hama, and already 26 kilometers south along this highway they advanced towards Al-Rastan, Dalbisen and Homs. Homs being the next big waypoint before Damascus, and also Homs being a vital logistical connection. As you can see on the map also, highways connect to it, and it is the point of connection to Tartus, a Russian naval base where Russian naval assets are stationed, and also Khomeimim air base a little bit to the north where Russian aerial assets are stationed. So taking Homs cuts off Assad's capital Damascus to 2 Russian bases. It is a disaster if that happens. Now at the same time we got this video of rebels entering the government palace, government building of Hama. Again, Hama captured almost without any bigger skirmishes between the forces, and now government palace has been taken. Every time these guys make a video, they do like to yell a lot. I mean, I guess we have a different temperament, but they yell so much. Talking about cities taken, again, this is Hama, and we go a little bit southeast of Hama. There's Salamiyah. A few hours after Hama was surrendered today morning, Salamiyah also surrendered to the rebels. The Shia community of Salamiyah, a town with 66,000 inhabitants, 33 kilometers southeast of Hama, has surrendered to the Idlib rebels. Hama now seems lost to Assad, and the next battle will soon take place at Homs. If Assad loses Homs, he will have lost Syrian civil war. Now, losing Homs for Assad, you just heard what I said, but it's not only a loss for 2 Russian naval bases or the civil war of Syria for Assad, it's also a massive loss for Iran. Because Iran has a connection to Lebanon. Look at that. Lebanon right here. If the rebels take Homs and advance a little bit south, Iran loses all connection to militias in Lebanon, which it funds, arms, supports. They also lose their connection to militias in Syria. It's a massive loss for Iran, Russia, and Syrian Assad's regime. After the fall of Hama, the next major city in Syrian opposition forces' path is Homs, just 40 kilometers away along the M5 highway, with only Er Rastan and Dalbiseh in between. Er Rastan's terrain offers defensive advantages, with Orontes River as a reservoir protecting its flanks. However, Assad's army failure to secure Hama's flanks led to its loss. Failure to secure the flanks. I mean, you saw the videos of defensive lines formed out of barrels. That is the failure we're talking about here. Those defensive lines made out of barrels, I mean, Assad's regime had over a decade to fortify these cities and drill the troops to defend the cities if necessary, but he didn't do it. If Syrian forces capture Homs, they gain routes to Damascus, the capital, and the coastal regions, threatening key Russian bases in Tartus and Khomeimim, potentially forcing their evacuation. Now, this distance between Hama and Homs, as I said, is 40 kilometers. Now, let's see. I'm still not in the full present moment. I'll get there. It's full of surprises. Your patience will be rewarded. So early today morning, when it still was dark, we got this rebel convoy forming right south of Hama, meaning they took the city and already formed a convoy right south on the highway, preparing to even drive full throttle forward. How can they do it so fast? Hey, don't ask me. The video speaks for itself. They're all ready to go, mostly with civilian trucks. There's also real civilians in between here somewhere. And what is the outcome of this convoy? Well, I present to you the present moment. The rebels, within 3 hours after taking Hama, advanced 40 kilometers with this convoy to Homs, to the outskirts of Homs. They crossed a river and they just drove with no resistance. I cannot fit that into my head. I don't even need to comment on it. Look at this. Of course, many of you might be saying now that this is a very dangerous maneuver. You gotta consolidate your gains before you make a dangerous assault like that. Well, we already have the newest update, which is this. They widened the flanks across the highway to the river from the west and a little bit to the east also, securing the flanks. I mean, we're talking about 24 hours. They took Hama. A few hours later, they're already at Homs. It's the same situation as they reached Hama. In the span of 24 hours, they almost surrounded the settlement. If the same fate hits Homs now, by the time you get this video, like 10 hours from now, Homs might have been fallen. I don't know. You know better by the time you're watching. Now, on all of this footage you see right here, all of this footage shows civilians leaving Homs. They're leaving mostly to the coastal heartland of Assad's regime. They're afraid of rebel takeover, and we have massive traffic jams outside of Homs to the south and to the west. People are anticipating the rebel takeover. Now, I just want to stop at this video. This is a rebel group cheering on the city of Hama, of the, let's call it, fast takeover. But I want to notice their weaponry and gear. First of all, let's start with the uniforms. Look at it. They have matching uniforms, which is something you don't see much of these militant groups in the Middle East and Africa. Usually they wear whatever they can get their hands on, but these guys have matching uniforms. It says something. Then they have vests. It's already an advancement to have a vest. A lot of these militant groups carry magazines in their pockets. They have matching boots. They have matching gloves. Some of them have hats. Some of them have helmets. But the fact that they have helmets already says something. Bear in mind, this group is backed, funded and armed by Syria. They have matching rifles, actually. And you can see plenty of troops that have these matching. It's not only 3, there's plenty of them. So, what I want, also, notice the radio right here. What I want to say with this is their gear has evolved in the last 10 years, because when the Syrian civil war began, almost over 14 years ago, this very same group fought in sandals and shorts. Well, now the situation is very different. They have trained, their gear is much better, and their organization is at another level. Just to give you a more of an illustration of the same point. Militarily, HTS has invested enormously since 2020 in enhancing combat capabilities, improving professionalism, tightening its structure and command control, etc. From an officer class to special forces, nighttime units to entire drone force, it's changed the game. And this sentence here says it all. They do have special forces, nighttime units, and they have drone units, specialized drone units, and behind it all they have an entire drone production. The expansion of units like Asaib al-Khamra, introduction of Saraya al-Kharari and Kataib Shaheen, along with large-scale indigenous rocket and missile production, has created a force that Assad's regime has seriously struggled to defend against, let alone outmaneuver. Now again, this is funded and armed by Turkey, trained by Turkey, but I gotta say, the drones, the usage of drones and the similarity of footage to Ukraine, I smell Budanov's hand in the... It's a weird sentence to say, smell Budanov's hand. Well, I think the Ukrainians' hand is at play here. Now, my friends, let's take a look at the equipment captured, because I gotta keep you posted with this, because it's no small thing. It's not 1 or 2 tanks or BMPs. For example, yesterday, Russia lost the newest S-400 radar in Syria. Bear in mind, an S-400 battery export price from Russia to another country is $1 billion. So losing this radar to the rebels, no small thing. The Syrian rebels captured the Batliot K148 Ya-6 K1 radar and the S-400. It is capable of detecting targets distances of 10 to 300 kilometers. Now I do gotta say it, a disclaimer, these rebels, like this radar system, even if they have launchers and ammo for S-300 or S-400, They cannot use it because this takes a lot of training. This requires a team of professionals who have trained for years. Not an easy thing to use. They will probably not use it unless they get specialized training from Turkey or Ukraine. If they do so, oh, it's so bad for Assad's regime, because Assad's regime trump card was always its air power. Well, the rebels do have anti-air defense systems, radars, launchers, missiles. They have it all. Can they learn how to use it? That's the main point. For example, to illustrate that very same point, this is not a fake video. This is a real video of these rebels capturing Mi-8 helicopters in the airfield of Aleppo. They have never flown, they have no pilots, so they're now learning from YouTube how to fly this Mi-8 and trying to get it up into the air. It is funny, but if they actually do it, they have an active air force. Continuing on this point, this is another footage coming out of Aleppo's airfield that was captured, and on here you can see all of the MiGs captured. Now yes, these MiGs are ancient. They're ancient, most of them probably don't work. But if some of them do work and they get them up in the air, up and running somehow, again, they then have a very small but active air force consisting of one chopper and several old ancient MiGs. Also, a military base was captured near Hama today, and we got this footage of ancient museum-worthy air defense captured, S-75. This is a old Soviet high-altitude air defense system, and also 4 MiG-21 fighters were captured. I mean, this is museum-worthy. I'm not sure they can get them to fly, or if they can, they're pretty dangerous to the pilots. But they have a potential for an air force and an ancient air defense system. Now, on all of these footages, there's plenty of videos about it. You can see it on yourself on the screen. It's people, civilians of Hama, cheering on the rebels. Now, these rebels are connected to ISIS. You could almost say they kind of formed out of ISIS. The remnants of ISIS. They are terrorists by the UN and by America. And people of Hama are cheering them on. So this gives you an idea of comparison or perspective how bad the Assad regime must have been, backed by Putin. Gives you even a perspective that Putin's regime in Russia can be compared to ISIS. That's the level. The rapid collapse of Iran's Levantine front has been stunning. There was never a doubt that the power of Iran and its proxies rested on a house of cards. But what had been remarkable was their tenacity in war that has vanished, at least for the moment. Through the combination of Israeli military pressure, Turkish opportunism, increased rebel unity, and the weakness of Iranian Assad axes were quickly exposed and exploited. What's perhaps most surprising is how little Iran and its allies learned from ISIS expansion in Iraq. This little rebel shenanigans advancements in Syria is so vast in its effect, it sends shockwaves all across the Middle East. For example, there are reports that the Iraqi parliament has now approved Iraqi army troops to be deployed into Syria to help fight Turkish-backed HTS and SNA rebels. Thousands of troops are now at the Iraqi border planning to enter Deir ez-Zor. And you can see this is one of the Iraqi militant leaders speaking to his soldiers. This is a Shia militant group, and one of their main goals and purposes in life is to eliminate Sunni Muslims. So this is going to be not a Syrian civil war, but a conflict engulfing a big portion of the Middle East, engulfing Iran and Russia also. An interesting find came out of Assad's residence in Aleppo. Now this is Assad's family photo, him taking a vacation, and he's sitting a little bit funnily. So this, I'm sure he didn't want this to leak online, but it has. Everything in this residence has been found by the rebels, and this photo, you can make up your own mind about it, but I just remind you that on this photo is a dictator who used a chemical weapon to kill tens of thousands of civilians. All of this concludes the Syrian information. I'll keep you in the loop on Monday what happens, because by Monday Homs can be already captured and you never know what's going to happen. Everything is advancing so fast. Now we will jump to Ukraine, and we got some bombshell of news coming out of Ukraine connecting to the Kerch breach. Now this is only supposed because we have no footages, videos, photos, nothing, but we have people's remarks. Kerch, sound of an explosion, and air defense worked together with shots from small arms, presumably an attack by UAVs. Possibly, they say that Ukrainians attacked the Kerch breach with marine drones, and there are reports of over 12 marine drones being in the Kerch Strait. Now again, if the Kerch breach really takes a massive damage, we would have videos about it, because people would film it, because they're all, like, the bridge is closed, but the people are stuck on both sides. Everybody has phones, they would film it. We don't have clips or videos, so possibly either all of the Ukrainian marine drones were destroyed, or B, their targets were elsewhere than the Kerch breach. So something exploded in the Kerch. There were Ukrainian sea drones, but we don't know what they did there, and we don't know what they hit. On this footage, you see a Russian soldier being quite sad about his home. This is a dugout, this is a trench in Ukraine, this is a defensive line, but overnight it flooded fully. So they cannot really, defend this line anymore. All of their stuff, weapons, gear, everything is now underwater. They gotta build a new one or leave, or wait until it freezes and then cut out the ice. Well, this is Rasputitsa, this is what it's called. It stopped Hitler, it was a pain for Napoleon, and now it's a pain for both sides in Ukraine. It's just a very bad time to be outside on the field, whatever you are, a civilian or a military man. Rasputitsa is a modern rain season where everything looks like that. The same situation is on the Ukrainian trenches also. Okay, this concludes Ukraine. Now we'll jump to Russia. Some funny bit of news comes out of Russia. We'll begin with Yemeni soldiers. Yemen, I don't know how. Yemen, the country, right? Upon arrival in Russia, the Yemenis received bank cards with 1.9 million rubles on them. So this is the one-time payment for the international mercenaries in Russia. But later, 1.5 million rubles were withdrawn from them. Oh, so sad. According to the Yemenis, the money was taken by the Russian recruiting company with which the Yemenis signed the contract. In short, most of the payments were taken away from Yemenis recruited into the Russian army. So what it really is, to sum it up for you, is the Russian Ministry of Defense stealing money from the soldiers they are paying to join the Russian army. I mean, as soon as you get the Yemenis on the Russian soil and into the military structure, you can take all of their money because they're not going to get out. Once you're in the Russian military structure as a private or as a stormtrooper, you're a prisoner. They can do whatever they want with you. And their goal is just to lure people in with these credit cards. 2 million rubles, you get the cards, come to Russia. Then they go to Russia and boom, your card is empty. And you're facing a Ukrainian machine gun or drone. That's how it is. Have you heard about the clown Tucker Carlson? I'm sure you have. Well, he decided to do another shenanigans and interview Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. I don't know why the dude, why do it? But he did it. Lavrov outlined Russia's terms for peace in that interview, and I'll read them to you. Ukraine must stay out of NATO with no foreign bases or military drills. Zaporizhia, Kherson, Donetsk and Luhansk must be fully recognized as part of Russia. Zelensky must revoke his ban on talks with Putin. Ukraine must repeal laws against the Russian language, culture, media, and Russia would offer security guarantees for Ukraine. So basically, the plan for peace for Russia is to make Ukraine into a puppet state. No way in hell this is happening. But Tucker Carlson, for some reason, enjoyed listening to his overlords. I don't know why. Putin has issued new quotas for mobilization in Russia. And if 1 year ago I could firmly state that St. Petersburg and Moscow are staying out of the mobilization because Putin does not want to agitate the wealthy big cities of Russia, then these times are over. In Moscow and St. Petersburg, law enforcement forces are conducting mass roundups of conscripts. At the Novocherkasskaya metro station in St. Petersburg, police and National Guard officers stopped young men without providing reasons or presenting identification. Detainees without military deferments and registered in the Krasnogvardeyski district were handed over to the military recruitment officers. So you use a subway station, you're 21 years old, and boom, you find yourself in the military enlistment office, and 2 days later in Ukraine. This is Russian reality right now. So they're just grabbing men from the street, from subway stations, from clubs, anywhere they can find, because Putin has issued new quotas to fill. Why? Aren't they, like, they're paying so much money, one-time payments and everything to the soldiers or volunteers who join. So what's the deal? Well, you can see it in this chart. This is the third quarter of 2023. We have the data already, and the volunteers joining the Ministry of Defense, I mean, the numbers fell by 2/3 compared to the second quarter and almost half compared to the third quarter of 2023, so 1 year ago. The volunteers' interest, even if the payments are at some Russian areas, they're 10 times larger than they used to be, the one-time payment. Like, you get a lot of money for joining, even according to Western standards. Still, people don't want to join. And you know what else doesn't help? Well, this is a chart of Russian self-elimination on the front. This is the chart only confirmed by Ukrainian drones, visually confirmed. I'm sure a lot of these guys self-eliminated themselves without anybody filming it. So 30 in November, it goes up like that. I guess it's in fashion to commit seppuku with a weapon in the Russian military. Now, my friends, this concludes Russia. A new segue into, drum roll, no, this time it's not South Korea, it's Romania. Yes, a NATO ally. On December 8th, so in 2 days, there's going to be the final presidential elections in Romania. It is damn important to the European Union, to NATO, to Russia, and to Ukraine. Why? Well, because on November 24th, there were preliminary elections. And you know who won those preliminary elections by a landslide? Călin Georgescu. Who is Călin Georgescu? An earthquake is happening in Romanian presidential elections. Virtually unknown far-right Călin Georgescu is leading with 80% of votes counted. A TikTok win, if there ever is one. And TikTok win is not a metaphor. It literally is a TikTok win, because it turned out that a massive pro-Russian campaign, control campaign, was released on TikTok, involving hundreds of thousands of bots and people pushing Călin Georgescu's votes and campaigns. And it was successful. Romania is in NATO. But you know what Georgescu has promised? On video, 1 week ago, he said this. He said that if I will be elected, I will not fulfill duties to the NATO. I will stop aid to Ukraine immediately. This is a fully pro-Russian candidate. And at the preliminary elections, he won by a landslide. This is massive. 2 days ago, we got this video out of Russian army, and I'll just read the subtitles to you. I mean, also, look at the dude with the beard. I mean, what a strange face. Dear brothers Romanians, greetings from Donbass. We are truly happy to see that following other European nations, your great nation has awakened. You've made a worthy choice by electing a responsible and honest, courageous and above all principled leader, Călin Georgescu. This man is a great friend of Russia and a firm opponent to Western influence. In these challenging times, such convictions do require wisdom and courage. Wait for us, dear brothers, we'll be there soon. There's not much left to do. We're close. And together, as in 1945, we will defeat all European evil and liberate our continent. Because our war is also... What the hell? We know that there are many patriots and courageous people. I'm not going to read you the rest. It's a little bit painful. It makes my head hurt. The propaganda is too massive. But yeah, I mean, the Russian soldiers are cheering on Călin Georgescu. We have a NATO country's president who won preliminary elections by a landslide, cheered on by Russian soldiers. How strange is that? But Romania woke up to that. They are taking this quite seriously, and now a criminal case has been opened. Following yesterday's declassification of documents proving the Russian interference in the Romanian elections, a criminal case has been opened today against the pro-Russian Kylin Georgescu. So documents were published 2 days ago that proved that Kylin Georgescu is a Russian asset, and this entire thing is a massive information campaign. And the charges against him are pretty, look, I'll sum them for you. It's treason. They're accusing him of treason, imprisonment from 10 to 20 years. In 2 days, we will find out, because there will be elections. I'm not going to even go into if he wins. If he wins, Romania, a country in NATO, as a fully pro-Russian president. Now, my friends, we'll jump to Georgia. Russia's goons in Georgia, the riot police, has started arresting opposition politicians and everybody who is actively fighting against them. Among the protesters arrested during the brawls with masked titushkis in Tbilisi are Aleppo, Elisashvili, an opposition leader, and Zura Datunashvili, a 3-time European, world and Olympic champion. And to get arrested by this police means to get beaten, tortured and starved. But let's zoom out for a moment with the Georgian protests. What has happened? What is the reaction of Georgian community all across the world to these protests? 3,000 plus public servants joined the protest. 6 Georgian ambassadors have resigned. Georgian ambassador to the US resigns. US finally decides to support Georgian president, opposition and people. Again, the protesters stand with the president and they're all together against the Georgian Dream government. 1 Georgian deputy foreign minister resigns. Multiple Georgian ministry staff and security sector staff resign. 50 plus Georgian police officers stop attending work, declare voluntary sick leave. 10 plus government representatives responsible for human rights violations are now under sanctions by several countries. Now, there is a massive reaction from international community to it, but it's now up to the Georgian people to take this final step and take their country back. By the way, the shadow leader of Georgia, Ivanishvili, the oligarch, is fully pro-Russian. It's a Russian asset purely. It's a Russian oligarch, basically. He is very superstitious, extremely superstitious. So the protesters know it and they're making effigies of him all the time. In this video, you can see police officers taking away the effigy of the oligarch Ivanishvili brought by protesters. There's only one of them. They have made many of these. I've seen these videos all the time. They're burning these effigies and making like dark magic with them. It's quite amusing. And now, my friends, we'll jump to the United States and I'll cover news that might at first hand not seem like it's connected to all of what I've talked about in this video, but it could be. But it could be not. I'll leave it up to you. Well, the United Healthcare CEO was assassinated on the street. I'm sure US media is talking all about it, so I'm not going to waste your time of going over the details. There's video about it. Everything is seen on the video. We don't know who the assassin is. We don't know which weapon he used. But we now know that there were inscriptions on 3 bullets that he shot. The inscriptions could be linked to the book written in 2010, which blasted the insurance businesses. And these 3 words on the casings were delay, deny, and defend. So why might it be connected with the Russians is, well, let's first go over his look. This is the CCTV footage. Nice hoodie, nice backpack, nice shoes, right, and a suppressor. Now, is that really a suppressor on this weapon? Or is this weapon Russian Makarov with attached silencer? I mean, this is a built-in silencer. You cannot remove this. Again, it might not be, but wonder if the type of a gun used in the assassination in New York has been identified. Here's a Russian Kalashnikov Makarov pistol with a built-in silencer, which could require manual cycling of ammo depending on certain factors as seen in the video. Now again, we don't know if it is that kind of a weapon. I think you know much more about it than I do, But if it is, then in the next video I'll talk more about it, because then we have more information. If it's connected to the Russians, oh boy, it's a rabbit hole. My friends, I'll keep you posted about everything I talked about today. The next video is on Monday and I'll continue where we left off. But now, my friends, I want to thank the people and guide attention to the people who keep this channel going. These are the monthly active members of Buy Me a Coffee, and if you are one, I will be sending you this Rehi patch to show my thankfulness for your support. I'm sending them out every week. Now I'll butcher 5 names with my Estonian pronunciation. Jakson Legge, Mal Elvod, Leo Laatala, Suomi Perkele, Herb Sveat, Richard Stratton. Thanks to these 5 people. And if you want to become a part of the family of the channel, become a monthly member of Buy Me a Coffee, and you'll get this awesome patch. Rehi Army. Until my next video, which will be on Monday, so be sure to be back. Slava Ukraini, and bye bye.